Hey everybody, welcome to Bald Guy Sci. And in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the introduction to ecology. Let's get at it. Renowned astronomer and dreamer Carl Sagan once stated, "There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known." Well, he was, of course, referring to this famous image taken of Earth within the Milky Way galaxy. This pale blue dot, as he referenced, is the Earth. A picture was taken by spacecraft Voyager that was launched by NASA.
Voyager. Voyager.
The picture was actually taken on February 14th, 1990. It was 6 billion kilometers away. And the journey had taken almost 13 years from the day it was launched to travel that far to take it. When you look outside the window or at some of Earth's amazing natural phenomena around you, what do you think about? What do you see? What do you wonder? Well, that wonder that's inspired by the natural phenomena around you is really what science is all about. And though we can study the chemicals and the atoms and the energy of it all, we can also study life. So if you look again at the part of the pale blue dot that surrounds you and you're studying life on the planet, whether that's big or small, and how it all works together with the living and non-living things, that's called ecology. So scientists have defined ecology as the study of the ecosystem, a complex and dynamic set of relationships and interactions among all the living and non-living factors that exist inside it. So, since it consists of living and non-living, scientists have described those living factors as things that are called biotic, bio meaning life. And so it means that they have a living origin. So they're either alive now or they were. And then non-living parts as abiotic or abiotic.
I've heard it both ways.
But examples of those actors on the ecological stage of life can be thought in terms of living or non-living, basically. So a rock.
I wanna rock! I wanna rock!
Well, not alive, never has been, never will be. So we would consider it abiotic or abiotic. But the boulder that's outside of your house, whether it's on, just uncovered by the grass or on the top of a mountain, or the minerals in the soil that contribute to whether or not a certain plant or animal can live and find what it needs, those are abiotic factors. But the plant and the animal that depend on those are biotic factors. They need those things to survive and thrive. So some other examples of abiotic things would be like weather and climate, the sun, clouds. Okay, now some people might get confused that there is like this middle ground between living and non-living. Okay, so for example, you have a dead tree in the forest. Who cares whether it made a noise when it fell? It's dead. Or an acorn. It's not a tree yet. Or maybe roadkill or something like that. Well, those things may be dead or dormant now, but they're still from a living origin. They were alive or their source was alive. So they're always biotic. Now, once the decomposers that exist in the soil and air actually return those things to their base molecules and elements, then those go back into the soil and decomposition is complete. Well, now we're starting to look at abiotic factors. So dinosaurs were biotic, but a fossil that's been fully converted to stone, abiotic. Okay, so once you understand it, all ecosystems on Earth have living and non-living parts, biotic and abiotic factors respectively, you may want to take a deeper look at how those players interact with one another. So, the abiotic factors are often considered in a hierarchy of organization. So, we take, for example, a wolf. We have one wolf. That wolf is an individual of a specific species. Now, there are other members of the species as well, but sometimes we only care about one at a time. We discuss that individual, like if it was rabid or starving or wanted to play poker on the weekends. I don't know. But that wolf doesn't really exist alone, at least not for long. So it has to be in an ecosystem surrounded by biotic and abiotic things that help it survive. But it also is surrounded by other members or individuals of the same species that it interacts with and depends on, like in a pack. So those other organisms of the same species considered together are called a population. So anytime a species has enough individuals to sustain themselves in a particular area, we say that that population exists. So a wolf in a zoo, not a population. A wolf playing cards, solitaire, not a population. But an individual wolf, let's call this one Reginald, is a member of a population in a specific area. But wolves don't survive just with their populations. They need other plants and animal populations for a variety of reasons, whether it's energy or whatever. So this inclusion of other populations of plants and animals into that ecosystem that they depend on is what scientists call a community. So that community exists because all the members of all the populations find what they need to live, grow, and reproduce in that ecosystem. So the abiotic factors like climate and landforms and weather, they all contribute to whether a population or a community can survive. And so if we consider all of the populations that are in the community, plus all the biotic and abiotic factors that make up that geographic location, well, now we're talking about an ecosystem. So individual, population, community, ecosystem. Well, one way we can actually simplify this for each population is with a term called habitat. So every organism has a specific habitat or series of conditions that when met create a place that that animal can live, grow, and reproduce generation after generation. But because many of those organisms find the same conditions suitable within a same area, we have to specify a little further by talking about a word called niche or niche.
I've heard it both ways.
And so an organism's niche or entire way of life, its role within the community, how it meets its needs is its niche. But the fact that it can meet its needs is called a habitat. So they interact with the environment in several ways that determine the specific things that matter most to its way of life. So this is how they can coexist. But the more adaptable an organism is, the more successful it will be at surviving and thriving in a variety of habitats. So to check out my most viewed video ever on YouTube, look into a video called Intro to Habitat Niche. I'll link it here in just a minute. And you can meet Reginald in person. But check out that link. It'll come up on your screen in a minute. For now, I want to review some of the vocab terms that we're going over today. One, organism. That organism is a member of a population. That population fits into a community which exists in an ecosystem with all the biotic and abiotic factors. But every organism has its own habitat niche. All right, well, next week's video, we're going to explore some things that contribute to the dynamic nature of populations within the community, the types of interactions they have with other organisms in their population or outside of their population in those communities. So to make sure that you see that video, go ahead and like this video, hit the subscribe button and tick the little bell so that you can be notified whenever that video goes live. All right, as always, if you have a science concept or topic that you're curious about, have a question about, or you'd like us to make a video about, go ahead and put that in the comments below. If you have a question about today's video, do that as well. And we love to see your comments. But we will see you back here next week for Ecology Part 2.